That may have been the game of the tournament, and it has huge implications for the standings. Slafkovsky with a sick pass to put Slovakia up one late. But Jesse, this game was insane beyond that. It went to the shootout, and Gudlevskis in net for Latvia. He was laboring after every single shot, but still managed to put Latvia on his back. Save after save, post after post, and despite Slafkovsky even getting a goal, Latvia came right back on the other end and had a sick goal of their own with his beautiful forehand to backhand drag move after save after save. Gudlevskis going down in pain every single time. He managed to put Latvia on his back, and it came down to the end here. Tatar misses. The Slovakian fans were thrilled at this game, or screaming in this game, but then at the final moment, Latvia with one of the cheekiest shootout goals you will ever see. And it all came down to Juraj Slafkovsky, but he couldn't put it by the ailing netminder. Jesse, that was straight up one of the best hockey games I've ever seen. I know I'm so disappointed as now an honorary Team Slovakia fan, but I just cannot believe what I just witnessed. Team Latvia and their injured goalie managing to make this work.
That game was absolutely nuts, right? And Slav, pretty good, going for 2 out of 3 out of the clutch situations. A little bit upset at the end of that one, having the game kind of on his stick, right? But overall, for a 20-year-old, basically putting Slovakia on his back, being the only guy to to score in the shootout, setting up that goal really in the third period, just a couple minutes left. Like, how nice was that goal again, Josh, right? We see where he's able to like win a puck battle, kind of retrieve the puck in the offensive zone, and once again set up a play. And I love in that clip, Josh, you're showing, it's like you can tell Slav, he's got the puck, he's waiting, he's like, cut to the net, just go, just waiting. And what a chipper of a pass, right? This puck gets a little bit airborne, and the fact that the Slovak player is still able to put it in, this was an absolutely electric game. And of course, Team Slovakia wanted the win. Nobody more than Slafkovsky, right? But you have to feel, Josh, that these are the very situations that are going to help him grow even more, and he should be so proud of his effort in this tournament.
Slovakia had such an insane game, and it's so unfortunate that it ended up not going their way. Latvia and Gudlevskis in net was absolutely lights out, despite what seems to be a right leg injury we'll know later. But yeah, I mean, honestly, Slafkovsky, Jesse, he played almost as much as his top defenseman tonight. He was the top forward in the game by far, but like just by minutes played. Every single time the puck was on his stick, he was trying to one-man it all the way up the ice, and it worked more often than not. Getting into the zone, getting offensive zone time, getting chances. At the end of the day, it just wasn't meant to be, and it's really a shame that Slavzilla just couldn't quite get it done there for Team Slovakia at the end. But again, like you said, he was the assist. He was the reason they scored that go-ahead goal. Even though Latvia scored it after, he scored in the shootout. But Jesse, we got to talk about the standings, because this game had huge implications for Team Slovakia. I'm going to bring them up here. As you can see, with that loss, Slovakia now moves into a tie with Germany, points-wise in Group B. But Slovakia does not have the tiebreaker. They have fewer wins, and also they lost to Germany in the head-to-head. So Latvia actually stays alive in this game, in the tournament. They still have a chance over the next couple games to make the quarterfinals. And if Slovakia had won that game, they would have been a lock for the quarterfinals. They would have jumped up to tie with the USA, and if they won in regulation, they would have jumped into second place. But it wasn't meant to be. Jesse, I know it's in all likelihood Slovakia is going to make the quarterfinals, but like you said, with this kind of experience, that brutal loss to Germany that clearly lit a fire under them, that helped win against Kazakhstan and then against the United States, this loss against Latvia, even though they got stonewalled by a very hot netminder, you gotta think that they are going to do absolutely everything they can to make sure that they not only squeak into the quarterfinals, but use that crowd energy behind them, the super pro-Slovakian crowd, and push their way through. I can't wait to see how this is going to, again, light a fire under them and push them forward.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly what it'll do for them going forward. I think they should be rewarded. I think that, I'd love for them to be able to continue on in this tournament, because they've got a great tourney, right? Scoring almost 4 goals in every game, right? But you have to feel like a little bit of adversity here. It's just a little bit of that practice, right? I think that's so important for Slav, getting those opportunities where like the game is in your hands, and what are you going to do? But we know this is why Slav plays hockey. This is what he lives for, is these type of situations. So for sure, he's going to take it to heart, but he's going to come back more ready than ever.
Can't wait to see it. In other World Hockey Championship news, Team USA and Cole Caufield blew out Team Kazakhstan 10-1. Somehow Caufield had 0 points and was a -1 in a 10-1 win. We're not going to talk about that too much. But Jesse, Team Canada, again, a clutch win against Switzerland 3-2. Guhle didn't get on the board, but he played a nice game. Do you have any comments on either of those games before we move on to this whole Matvei Michkov situation?
That's it. No, just looking forward. Team Canada continuing on a strong tournament as we go on here. We're going for gold again, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Well, we're going to move on to some Matvei Michkov stuff. And you guys probably didn't expect this. And all we can say is, well, we hope this works out. So, as you may have heard, Matvei Michkov is coming to the NHL next season. Well, at least according to one Russian source, Sport Express. They claim Matvei Michkov will, quote, continue his career in Philadelphia next season. He will terminate his contract with SKA and come on over. And while Byron Bader, Jesse, on Twitter, tossed up a stat card showing the comparisons between Matvei Michkov and David Reinbacher. And, well, you know, as Habs fans, we look at this and it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what could have been? And look, I'm not going to sit here, and I know you're not going to do it either, Jesse, and say, oh, well, look, we should have got Michkov. It's over. It's done. We are 100% supporting Reinbacher. But looking at these comps, again, this is just using NHLE, which is not the perfect tool to evaluate prospects. There's a lot of other things that go on. Just looking at NHLE, look at those comps for Matvei Michkov. McDavid, Gretzky, Demidov, which is interesting, Bedard and Crosby, and while Reinbacher's comps, they're definitely not as good. But they're also very different types of players, Jesse. Now, I know when we were talking about drafting Michkov, one of the big scares was that he might not come over right away. Those have been qualmed. Are you, does this upset you a little bit at the core? I know you were a big Michkov guy. I know I quite wanted him as well. I'm still 100% on the David Reinbacher train, and I don't wish any ill will to Matvei Michkov, but what I will say is I think after seeing how a lot of Habs fans and fans around the league are coming after the Habs at this point for picking David Reinbacher, I just kind of hope that Reinbacher has a better year than Michkov next year, and I mean, I don't know, it just is what it is.
For sure, these two are always going to be linked up. There's always going to be those comparisons, and that'll definitely be going on for a long time, right? It's really interesting to think of what our lineup, as we're kind of doing like projections for next year, of what it would look like with Michkov in the lineup. You have to feel like he'd be starting right away on that second line with Kirby, Dach, but I don't think it really makes sense for us playing shoulda, coulda, woulda, right? We know that Hughes, he puts a lot of time into what he's doing. He has a phenomenal hockey mind, right? So I think we really need to trust the people that are the most familiar with these situations, right? And a big thing, I think, is like when we're looking to build a team that's looking to really be, you know, a contender for a long time. Again, the whole thing is it's not about the individual, it's about the team, right? People would say, okay, but you shouldn't draft really for need. You should always go for the best player available. And I definitely get that, but I feel like Hughes has their reason, right? Is we're looking to really build a team. And I think that that's stronger than any one individual. We know to build a team, you need a right-hand defenseman, top guy. And we know always that you only get that through drafting unless an overpay, you know, through a trade, right? So again, it's about building the team. I think that that's what Kent Hughes had in mind when he did the David Reinbacher selection. So until David proves me wrong, I'm absolutely going to be a believer in Kent Hughes.
Exactly. The only time will tell. And while Michkov certainly looks like that exact kind of missing piece Montreal needed on the offensive front, you're never going to be upset with a guy like Reinbacher. Was he the safe pick? Maybe. But I guess, again, we won't really know. We'll just have to see how Michkov fares in Philadelphia. But let's be positive. Stay on the Reinbacher train. I'm seeing too much negativity around the Habs on this subject. So, guys, come on. Leave a like on the video right now if you're supporting David Reinbacher. We'd love to see that down below. Jesse, there's just one final thing we want to talk about just for a minute here at the end of the show. And that's Nick Suzuki. Now, Selke voting came out today, and, well, Nick Suzuki was there, as we all expected. Maybe not as high as we wish he was, but hey, he was there. And the cool thing is, Nick Suzuki finishing at 13th there with a second place vote and a 13 combined fourth and fifth place votes. He was one of only 2 people to get Selke votes at all on a bottom 5 team. The other being the guy just ahead of him, Jason Dickinson. You also had Kerfoot from Arizona, not technically a bottom 5 team, but close. He only had like 1 fourth place vote or something. But Suzuki and Dickinson, the only players on really bad teams, Jesse, that even got votes. And honestly, I think once the Habs are actually good, you're going to see Suzuki climb up this list. Like, there's not that much of a difference between Suzuki and someone like Joel Eriksson Ek, you know? And I know Seth Jarvis, Adam Lowry, these guys are very deserving, but I can't help but know that Nick Suzuki is going to move up this list in the future. But it's cool to see that he's already getting a little bit of recognition, including a second place vote.
Yeah, and this past year was a big step up year in terms of Nick Suzuki getting more respect in the NHL, right? Getting those plus 30 goals. So he's still new in that sphere, right? We know he's a good player, but he's really starting to get there with some of the best, but he's still new in there, and he's just going to continue to really develop, but he's going to be in that conversation just kind of going forward as this team gets better. You know, he's just going to get a lot more respect, and obviously his name's going to be climbing up that list to the point where when the team is contending, I think that that'll coincide very nicely with Nick Suzuki being a top 5 Selke sort of player. This is the type of 200-foot player that he is, right? And I think, you know, Barkov is obviously amazing, but I could see him kind of in Suzuki's prime battling with Barkov to see, like, who's the real heir apparent to Patrice Bergeron.
Yeah, you know, I had to look through this list 3 times to make sure that Patrice Bergeron didn't actually get a vote, even though he's retired, because it wouldn't surprise me, honestly. But yeah, I mean, look, no one's going to be exactly what Patrice Bergeron is, but I mean, if you just look at the players in the NHL, Suzuki is dang close, and a lot of people say the same things about him, but we're just going to have to wait and see. We'll see when Montreal is good, if Suzuki can keep up that high level of offensive and defensive production, and hey, you never know, if there ends up being another guy who can eat a lot of those center minutes, so Suzuki doesn't have to do so much offensively, can contribute a bit more on defense, I think we might just see some much higher voting placements. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like on the video. I'll ask you to subscribe too, but like is all we really want right now. Leave us a like down below. We'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.